2, 1.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. This is Henry, or Kami here, and I'm here with my friend for a deck profile. If you would like to introduce yourself and what you did.
Hi there, my name is Alec Rosario. People know me as Brock over the Discord and Yu-Gi-Oh space, and today I went top 8 at a remote regional.
Alrighty, and what deck were you playing?
Today, funny, I'm playing one of my favorite decks, Crystron, with the new cards of Justice Hunters, Canine. So a deck I like to call RoboCop.
Alrighty, let's take a look at it.
So starting off, I'm gonna go with my Crystron engine here. So I started with 3 Solfador and 2 Solfafnir. This is your standard level 5 package that you should really have in this deck. When you're playing with the canine cards, you really want to see most of your level 5s because they combine with the best card in the deck, which is Joko. People have been going to 6 of these, starting on a 6 Solfafnir. I think it's too much. Some people have been thinking about going into just these 4. This is too little because by doing this, you sometimes the hands that you draw these two together will literally make you that you cannot end on infinity. So it's very important. So I think the sweet spot is just these 5, nothing more, nothing less. You can technically swap these two, but 3 Solfador because it is literally your best starter with Joko. After that, we
Alrighty.
have our 3 1-ups: Tristaros, Smyger, and Thicevern. Now, I know there's a lot of discussion right now about purple, about Thicevern. Should you be playing it? Should you be not playing it? I'm gonna be out flat out and say this. This card never came up. Never came up. I have, I talking here to Evie. I have done multiple lines of like, oh yeah, I need purple. Purple is so good. Once you maximize, and you'll see as we go through the deck profile, once you maximize your consistency of canine cards, this becomes irrelevant. It does help you in some lines, so I'm considering just citing this out for just going first. For just purely going first to just maximize my ceiling. But other than that, this rarely came up.
Okay. So, seeing as most standard Crystron lists in the past have played multiple Tristaros, and it's kind of been the heart and soul of the deck, what's the reasoning for cutting it down to one here?
The reason why I only play one is because it's no longer a synchro heavy based deck. It's more of an XZ link deck. So when I use Tristaros, most of the time I'm not even using its effect to summon a body. It's more of a bait. Every time that I summon Tristaros, I'm just baiting my opponent to see if they use an extra Ash Blossom, if they use a Veiler, or they use an Impermanent. Because even on my end boards, because of how sometimes spell heavy decks are, like Yummy, I actually want to have Tristaro. I don't want to have Tristaros on board. I actually just want to have my Dragster already on the setup because then I can negate the first Obedience School, and if they hit me with a Thrust or another Obedience School, then I have my Infinity ready. It's very awkward to like when your opponent starts their turn with Infinity, sorry, with Obedience School, and you're like, okay, awesome. Negate with Infinity, they go, okay, awesome, do it again, and you're just sitting dumb because then your Dragster is never going to have value.
Alrighty, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much for explaining. If you'd like to continue on.
Yep. Then continuing with the Crystron core here, we got our triple inclusion, very standard package. It's the best dump out of your Solfador if you already have either Smygo or Thizer in rotation, as well as the trap card because it allows you to search it. And even the trap card, people might think it's a brick. Sometimes you're not searching it in the line because can either bluff your opponent like I have it in my hand, or maybe it just doesn't come up, so you don't really want it. So it comes into play. I'm never mad breaking on cluster because I there's so many access to Solfafnir that cluster itself becomes a discard fodder for it.
Alrighty.
So now continuing here with my canine engine here, we have sorry, there's our canine, the honorary Crystron card, Scrap Recycler. This is truly needed for your 1 card combos. Scrap Recycler, people started out going second. I recommend don't side out Scrap Recycler, especially in this kind of build since we're using a lot of board breakers. as you'll see when we go through them. It's more important that you just break your opponent's board and just go and think of going to turn zero plays. Like, okay, awesome, normal summon scrap recycler, full combo. So it's important that you keep this card going second. It might suck drawing it, but I think with the ratios that I have in my deck, this card will be less likely to show up in your hands.
Alrighty.
No, not with the RK9. So this is gonna be a very unique take on the K9 cards. Was not my idea. This is shout out to the top 8 deck from Idaho. So we have the 3 Jokos, right? Very standard.
Yeah.
Now, Lantern, and then just one Izuna. That's it. Only one Izuna in the main deck. So for all of those people trying to play free to play or can't afford a playset of Izuna, you only need one in the deck for this one. And the reason why you only need one Izuna here in the deck, as well as your one Lupus, is because in my opinion here, Yumi is one of your worst matchups. The biggest issue with Yumi becomes that their end board is so layered, as well as your Izuna becomes dead in your hand, that if you just one Izuna, depending on the matchup, you can just search it with either Ripper or Joko or Case. So there's really no
Yeah.
need into maximizing him, especially since I am not playing Paradise Smashers in my build. So Izuna since I'm not trying to force the Dice Smasher by having Izuna already, I'm not searching her. I'm searching her at the end of the combo just as a plan B if my opponent interrupts me. Then
So
yeah.
do you think that it's possible to play this deck without Izuna or Lupus, or do you think that at least one is mandatory?
So I think if you can this 1-1 ratio line is so good because I think Izuna is a hand trap, right? Because Izuna goes into Lupus, Lupus summons itself. Depending on how you build your extra deck, you can have a great package of Xyz that can help you go in second. So it's important that I think you invest at least into one Izuna. If you have the money, of course, max it out. But with the ratios that I just wanted to have for this tournament, which I was expecting in the remote regional people playing the newer decks, I was expecting a lot of Yummy, it was true. And this, funny enough, not seeing Izuna was a blessing sometimes.
Alrighty.
Then continuing with the spells here, we have the one Liberation, triple Chaotic Element here to search your Joker or Lantern depending. This card is insane. It's even more insane when you include the Nash package, which I am not playing because of the extended effects of Chaotic Element. However, maxing out on these is so important because matchups like Ryzeal, this is an auto win card because you can just steal your opponent's detonator with it. So I think it's important that no matter what format we're in, maxing out on this card is so good. Then on my take, I'm playing 2 case. The reason why I wanted to have 2 cases in the deck is, again, I wanted to maximize the amount of starters. I always want to see Joko. I always want to draw a 5. So the idea here is that there were some games that my hand was triple board breaker, chaotic element case. I start with chaotic element, bait the ash, bait whatever, and if it doesn't resolve, like, okay, awesome, activate case, add Izuna, and from there I can play. And much more insulated place. So I think the combination of these 2 cards can easily bait out your opponent. It depends on what you're trying to read, right? You're trying to read an Ash Blossom, you're trying to read a Duel. You gotta read your opponent and look at your hand and see what's the most detrimental card in your hand. Thus, like, the idea of which one you should start is always 50-50. It's always game by game, matchup by matchup.
Alrighty, that makes a lot of sense. Very good insight.
And then now we're gonna go here with our non-engine. Now here we have the best non-engine in the game, sadly. We have 3 Fuwalos. Fuwalos, I hate playing this card. I wish we could stop playing them, but unfortunately, you need to force your opponent to have boards because in this format's deck, especially like our decks just that get to their full end board become these FTK decks. Becomes this deck that they're so layered or so strong that it doesn't matter how much gas you have, it won't be enough. Even if your Charmy trades with an Ash Blossom, that's good. because at least you're taking one card off their hand to be able to you be able to play on your turn. And I think
Alrighty.
a lot of my matchups against my Vanquish Soul matchup, as well as a couple of my Draco Tail matchup, it just put some pressure on my opponent to just play lower, and then with just me drawing breakers and stars, it just goes even stronger. That's my only monster hand trap. Now we're going to the good stuff. We have
Very interesting. Okay.
triple droplet, triple dark ruler, triple eclipse, and triple super poly.
So, what led you to play board breakers over your hand traps here?
The main thing that was a call was I I spent the night before thinking of what I wanted to play for this event, or even if I did want to participate in this event, I was having issues with my hand traps, specifically knowing that every time I was throwing my hand traps, my one for one, like my Ash Blossoms, my Imperms, they were not being effective, and I always felt that me having a card that just trades for more is gonna be much more powerful, much more stronger for me, and much more favorable. I'll be honest, I did not find an answer. I was thinking, oh, should I play a Ghost Ogre? Should I play Nib? Should I play Perulias? And all of the answers led that this doesn't make sense. I can't find my matchup spread properly. I'm just gonna literally go online and look at the video, watch it, and like, okay, he's playing the breakers. I really don't agree with this, and I'm telling you right now, even as a person that almost went undefeated, and I know and we'll talk when we talk about our matchups. I'll explain a bit more. I went against all new decks. If theoretically our format just is Justice Hunters with nothing from the older formats, such as Lunalight, such as Ryziel, such as Malice, this can beat any of those decks. This, however, beating going against a Dark Ruler, a Poly, and a Super Poly, and a Droplet is not doing anything against a layered Ryziel Mitsu board. A Malice deck just FTKs me because Super Poly Dark Ruler Droplet is not gonna do enough going second. Maybe if I win Diral, Eclipse can just out win me that matchup, but these cards are not gonna be enough against those older decks. So if in true Justice Hunters format, which funny enough was my entire tournament run, this was the most insane combination. I FTK'd my opponents with just combining two of these. Most of my Yummy players just got Super Poly for their life savings, and then I just chained Droplet, pitching a Crystron card and just going full combo.
I see. I see. Alrighty.
And then
It's very,
finally,
very. Apologies. Continue.
yeah. So I was just gonna finally hear my last cards here in my main deck is just Call by Talents. Like it was, I had 40 cards here, but I technically have my two cards I don't want to draw, which is my Scrap Recycler and my Thighs Burn. So just to switch up the numbers, I just literally included these because I think going first, just like going second, these cards can just win you games sometimes.
Alrighty. So, with you not playing Ash Blossom here, how was your games when you got Fualost? Do you think that it mattered? Did you feel like you ever needed the Ash, or did you just deal with the Fua and have no issues with it?
So the good thing about the Crystron deck being as it is, you can actually have incredible half boards under Fuwa that your opponent cannot disrupt. So one of my biggest wins, it was against round six against Dracotail. My opponent my opponent Fuwa'd me, and after I did some plays, I literally had just Ripper, and I had my Tristaros and my Sulfador, and I did dump my trap card. So here I only gave my opponent one draw because of the Ripper. After that,
Yep.
I just talents look at my opponent's hand, and his hand was literally Droplet, Droplet, Nib, Pan. And at that point, I'm like, awesome. I'll literally just stop right here and pass. And you might think that's not a good board, right? Like Ripper, Tristaros, Sulfador. The main thing is just Ripper, Tristaros. You have Tristaros that can easily access Escaletus, which just gives you follow up for next turn. You also can just go into Dawn Dragster to basically negate two spells in a row, and then Ripper will be just enough. Like say my opponent drew the Femina, because then he normal summons Femina normal summon Lucius adds Femina. My Ripper checks that. Because even I
Yeah.
know he had Droplet, but he didn't know that I also have my own Droplet. So I could have easily just dodged that interaction completely. As well as I had the Quick Play spell. Does my Quick Play spell just again checks my opponent.
Yeah.
So the deck really can play under Fua by just giving them two draws, but those two draws are so layered that you're in a command position. It's
Alrighty.
now
So what did your extra deck look like
so
here?
my extra deck here, I'll to be honest, it's a mess. I would not recommend. I would easily switch up some of these cards, and I was talking to one of my other friends about this. But I think this is a good skeleton for people who want to play board breakers to start, especially those on a super poly build that they could try to play. So let's just go easy with the XZs. So we're playing the one Ripper. We're actually playing
Yeah.
today Hound. Hound by itself is something that's not very popular, and I wasn't a big fan of it before in my traditional build. But in this build specifically, Hound came very powerful because I sometimes summoned it into my opponent's board in on their turn as a beat stick, especially on turns that I got. I remember specifically a duel round one. I got full wood, and I was playing against the mirror. My current extra deck didn't have anything that Lupus could go into that was strong in the mirror, so I actually ended on Hound, and just playing with Hound was enough because my Hound eventually got to 8,000 attack points. And my opponent could, even with my opponent acting Arc, Rebellion, Dragon, he could not out the Hound. So eventually, he goes standby phase. I banish a card. Still, Hound being untargetable because I had Lupus. Swing 8k into the Ripper, so being ahead in life points. We were not going to time, but still ahead in life points. And then set up a Zeus. And from there, I just play main phase 2. So a big thing about Hound is sometimes that if your opponent does not have an out to this, which Crystron K9 players don't have an out at the moment because a lot of them have cut the Nash Knight package. The only card that outs this is Zeus and Nash Knight, as well as a Malice Banish. But the rest of targeted destruction doesn't do it.
Alrighty. Sounds like a really solid backup plan to have access to. It's a very interesting way to use a card that on the surface looks so weak.
Yeah, and in the future, I might be cutting it because I think I need to include the Nash Knight package because I feel that turn zero Lupus, you really want a strong end board piece, and Nash Knight's so strong, not just because of the ability to take something, is because you can eventually funnel some aquas to make Euchatic Element live. So you'll see a couple cards I'll mention that can be replaced to include a Nash Knight package, and then from there you can easily build like a much more stronger side as an extra deck. Of course, the werewolf as the one target for Forced Liberation. I was summoning him like crazy. I love the quick play spell. People might disagree with me, and I'll admit to that. The quick play spell is very win more, as well as mathematically, it's not optimal to have it in your deck going second because it's a complete dead draw. However, most of the time against Dracotel, this is my best card because a lot of times I am baiting my opponent's spell negate with anything else, and then when I go quick play and I pop the other spell card, the other trap card, Dracotel Horn, at that point Werewolf can just out the whole board and set up a Zeus for whenever my opponent tries to check me with something else. Eventually, then the rest of my fives are Valon, Infinite Track, Riverstormer, and Vimana. I'll be honest, these two rarely came up, and I never summoned Infinite Track. My ratios, I think I just drew so good that I was mostly summoning Infinite Track to just go into Zeus. I was like, go in second. I'm like, oh, what's the one XZ that I don't really need? Infinite Track. And then just summon him, going into Zeus. This is why I wish I had the Nash Knight package, because the Nash Knight package, if you include the Chaos one, you can have a format Zeus. Vimana technically can be a format Zeus, but it requires an Exi in the graveyard already, so it's not the most ideal format Zeus card you could do. Plus, you really want to negate live on this. Then, after my Exis here, we're just going to go into our Synchro package. Esqueletus Dragster. You do not need more. People that play two Tristaros can play the Quarian Gandrax or can play a second Dragster, but I'll be honest, Quarian Gandrax is not coming up as often as I want to. When we're talking about Yummy by itself, it's very rarely that they're going to have enough names for you to banish that they can't just use any synchro to just dodge that effect. Same thing with Dracotail. At that point, that the effects are already triggering. So your Quarian Gandrax might banish a couple names, but they mostly play all their names as 3-ofs. And at that point, you're not really winning. Maybe for other decks, like against a Raziel deck, against a Fiendsmith deck, Quarian Gandrax come up. But I think as the format evolves, you'll see that you do not need that extra tuner. Just one Tristaros is enough, thus two Synchros is just enough.
So, with you only playing the two synchros, this means you don't play Centurion Legacia. Do you feel that card might be necessary, especially with you not having Citri? It's probably very hard to dodge targeting effects like Imperm. Did you ever feel that come up?
It actually did come up in one at one certain point that I think they were trying to interact with my Jokol, and I wish I could summon another 5 and got into Legation for the pop and the draw. I think it was like one or two games that I'll be honest, they were already losing positions. Would the draw mattered? Possibly, as well as the pop. But I think if your extra deck space fits, because there's a lot of concessions you can make. Like you can cut people that play Typhon. You can just cut Typhon and play the Legacia. You can theoretically just cut the Veil on that people have been doing and play Legacia. You can cut Vimana. There's a or you can just cut Hound, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. Is just cut Hound, and you can easily play the Legacia. So I think if you with just two tuners, you can easily go into that card. Just be aware of of the implications of sometimes it might be a card that you rarely summon and might feel very underwhelming sometimes, but it does have some innate value to it.
Alrighty, thank you very much for that insight.
Then wrapping it off, we have then our our Noah Infinity package, very standard. It's just I forgot these two Xyz, but there's not much to say. Infinity, I think Infinity is one of the best Xyz ever printed. Not once per turn. If we could ever summon multiple Infinities, this deck will be ending on two Infinities if they could. Then we have here our Super Poly targets, Mud Dragon and Garura. Funny enough, I did not play the Secretarian Dragon for the Dracotail matchup, and all of my opponents that were playing Dracotail, they were of varying skill levels. In some matchups, I was like, awesome, yeah, Secretarian Dragon would have won this. In other matches, I'm like, oh my god, Secretarian Dragon would have done anything. It would have been trash against this deck. And this is why I think just these two Super Poly targets are enough. Because most decks in the format, at least the worst Master P was Yummy. You want to beat Yummy. This deck beats Yummy with Super Poly as well as the Eclipse. Because you can go here with Herald and Snatchy. And if they use the Synchro to summon Snatchy and another one, you can just summon Garura if you have a second Super Poly. Which I literally did to one of my opponents that I used Super Poly them twice in the same turn. And just eventually FTK them with it. So, a concession that you could do, right? You can easily side these cards out and swap them out with the more XZs depending on the matchup. But I'll be honest, both of these cards came in clutch.
Alrighty, very interesting.
And now for our links, Clockwork Knight, our honorary Crystron card. its effect is so good, especially searching the continuous spell. It auto wins just a lot of matchup. It auto wins the Yummy matchup. It auto wins the Dracotail matchup. And the reason why it auto wins the Dracotail matchup is because even though they have the ability to pop spell and traps or pop a couple things, just changing the attribute to it being a machine sometimes can ruin their some of their combo plays, because a lot of these players like to end on seals. They sometimes like to summon their own Secretarian Dragon in the combo line, but they use the monsters on field, and they can't do it because again now they're machines. You don't have a Dragon or Spellcaster. Same thing with against Yummy, they cannot summon the Link One. So if you have Clockwork Knight up, their Obedience School is worthless because they can't go ever into the Link One. And just getting rid of Snatchy access is just guaranteed win, because then they have no field spell access unless they specifically search it with Cookie. But at that point, you have enough cards in your deck to just out it. The Cluster, the Forced Liberation, or just even your Infinity or your Dragster to interact with it. And then Little Knight, it's a standard play that you can easily just link away link away an extra 5 into a Little Knight as an extra interruption. I think in the whole event, I never summoned Little Knight because I valued having an extra 5, rank 5, than Little Knight. It is as well because in this remote regional, I was expecting people to be playing Mega Fleet. For those who do not know what Mega Fleet is, I wish I had a copy with me. It is a contact fuse target that it uses a monster in the extra monster zone, such as Little Knight, and any Cyber Dragon card. So eventually, again, say the keyword is Cyber Dragon. So they could, Dracotail players, what they're doing, since they have so much extra deck space, and I know Yummy might start doing this, is they see an Infinity and a Little Knight, they're like, okay, awesome. They're mine now, and they summon a Mega Fleet, and they just lost 2 interruptions in your board. There are ways you could play around it by summoning Infinity into the extra monster zone. However, it's still, if they summon any Link 1 like an Almirage or something, just be aware to immediately pop it, because if not, they are going to link away with it. And you want to make sure you keep your Infinity live constantly.
Alrighty, and how about your side deck? What cards did you play? I know you were talking about Clockwork Knight before.
So here, right, we have the Clockwork Knight, FTK against Dex. Duster, it's a one-off, but I swear I was drawing Duster like it was my child. It was, I think against a Dracotail opponent in my round 3, I Duster Droplet my opponent a couple times. Like, it was just a sack after sack. Like, it was not fair. And then
Nice.
and then my last one of here is another Izuna that I just boarded in going first, or against matchups that I knew that Izuna would be valuable. That like a Dracotail or a Vanquish Soul, so like just a consistency boost of seeing her. But again, it rarely came up to me in this whole event. Once we talk about a bit of my match spread at the end. Then we got Triple Lancia. You have to respect against Canine Crystron. It's not a bad card, but it's also you gotta respect Malice. Like, you cannot let those FTK decks run around free. I got lucky that I didn't have to side this in, but in the future I will always keep Lancias in my deck, because I do not want to risk losing to that deck. Then we went to the most debatable card of my deck, Contact C. Funny, interesting enough, I was not a believer of this card, but Contact C is a skill check card. What do I mean by that? I Contact C one Yummy player round 3, and that was my draw, and they could not they did not have a card to like get rid of Contact C. Against another player in my round 6, he went into Cross Sheep. Now, people are playing into this and not playing into it. They know what the card does, and they know what they know what it does, and have a backup plan, such as Cross Sheep. Other decks don't have a plan. Specifically, in my last round, I contact C a Dracotail player. You may be wondering, how does contact C like stops a Dracotail player? Well, the main thing is on their turn one end board, they're ending on a seals. So once I identified that my opponent was playing seals, I held this contact C not until they were fusion locked, but until they summon spirit. Because the moment they summon spirit, they're dragon locked. And there is no way with contact C on the board that they can fusion summon to anything. There is no dragon fusion that can use contact C, nor dragon link that can use a contact C. Someone can correct me. There might be a random link to dragon, but once Blue Eye Spirit is on the board as your link one, you slap this down, the Dracotail player is gonna be crying.
Alrighty. And what are your remaining sides here?
We have the traditional 3 Droll and 3 Ash Blossom. This, like I mentioned, I could not figure out what I wanted to bring for this event. This is a literal 1-for-1 side deck from the person who won the top 8 Idaho regional. He's going to Worlds. He got top 4 Nats with Gem Knight. So I can trust his deck building choices. And I was like, you know what? Let me just take literally this exact same list. Droll never came up. It's just a deck to respect the FTK decks as well as some K9 variants. Ash Blossom going first, or against some matchups where Droplet or Super Poly is not going to do it, so you have an extra set of hand traps here. But I don't know, I think I sided in every card except Lancia. Lancia was the only 3 cards that I just never brought into my game.
Alrighty, and if you want to do a quick rundown of what your matchups were, and we can get this wrapped up.
Yeah, so quickly my matchups. Round 1 was a mirror. My opponent was completely new to the deck, so once I saw my opponent's skill level, it was very easy to win in the mirror. Next was a Dracotail matchup. That that was the one matchup that I learned I contact C and it didn't work. However, I drew a better hand going first second. First he won Daryl, but I broke his board. And then game 3, I just keep breaking board. That's the strong power of this deck. Is if you see enough engine, enough gas, you have enough to break boards. Zeus was my most summoned XZ in the whole tournament. I was summoning Zeus like crazy. Then I had my only draw was against a yummy player. That yummy player did not hand out to contact C. However, we went to a grind game 2, and I was trying to break his board, but he had an anti-spell up, which like just slowed me down completely, especially when my hand was like double Super Poly and a Droplet. So it was like very hard for me to be able to fully break his board. But then me going first game 3, that was the most funniest thing. I had literally my traditional Crystron 2 card combo, so Fafnir Sulfador. Pitching Sulfador, so Fafnir effects summon another Sulfador. He chains Veiler, and I'm like, chain Book of Eclipse. He goes Purge, and I'm like, chain Book of Eclipse, because I know that I needed to resolve that effect. If not, I was not winning that game. Eventually, it was a draw because my opponent summoned Typhon. He went into battle phase, and before he could attack, he realized that my Skeletus had a damage reduction an attack reduction, so he did not swing. Round 4 was against a Vanquish Soul player. I got a game 1 win automatically because he got that check and had an error. Then he went first, Vanquish Soul things, right? I almost broke his board. I summoned Zeus on his turn after like I was playing under Shifter, and after a full Vanquish Soul board, I summoned Zeus and I triggered this effect too quickly. I should have held it for end phase. But after that, he just killed me. And then game 3, I just FTK him because he did not draw enough attributes to break my board. Round 5 was against the Dracotail player. He was the one that finished top. He finished number 8. He was on Dracotail Fiendsmith, that game was so heavily on me because of my breakers that he did not show me the Fiendsmith stuff. And like he could never get to two bodies because I just like Book of Eclipse him, Super Poly, or interacted with him that he just did not get to that card. Then my round six was against a Yummy player. That Yummy player, I he was one of the stronger players in the event. I think it was easy enough to beat him with the cards that I had. Book of Eclipse was a champ. Droplets, Super Poly. The board breakers went crazy. I was always say the board breakers went crazy. I think my opponent just break at one point. That was that in game three. That was enough. And then finally, my round seven was against the Draco Tail, which was the person who finished and won the whole event. I game one I lose die roll. It was not close. Then we get deck checked. I look at my hand go in second, and I go in first, and I was like, thank God for that deck check because I just drew all one ups. And then we go back, we go again, new decks, new shuffle. I draw five, and that was enough that my opponent looked at their hand like, I'm gonna scoop here because it's such an embarrassment to the game. And then game three, I punted. I This deck does not lose to draw, especially if you start Joko plus Solvador. You should not lose to draw, but I did. I walked into Joel and Lockbird, and I lost the game at that point. And even though I contact see them in a perfect spot, it was not enough. It was too late for me because I realized my mistake that I could not go in extension. I probably was a bit too tilted to keep playing that I just lost in the spot.
I see, I see. Do you have any shout outs or anything else before we finish this deck profile?
I will say shout out to all my homies in every Crystron Discord server, whichever in all the Crystron servers. I know we're always debating. I'm always supporting people with their ideas. All I'm gonna say is after this event, I'm cutting purple. Purple is not mandatory. If you're playing purple, you are behind. And also shout out to my boy Rudra that was cheering me on and supporting me throughout the whole tournament.
Alrighty, well, congrats on your top, and I hope you have a wonderful continuation to your next event.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good one, y'all.